Hi everybody and welcome today to Jill Haley, who's very recently retired from her day job in the housing sector. And Jill joins us today as one of the three candidates who have been shortlisted for this year's election to become Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Housing. Hi Jill and welcome. How are you?
Hi there. Hi.
Thanks for coming along today. I'd be really interested to find out, first of all, a little bit about your background and about your journey into housing.
Right, thank you. Well, it's a very interesting journey and one where CIH has been with me pretty much from the very start and the cornerstone of my professional career. So, like many people, I fell into housing. It wasn't my career of choice. In fact, I was just rumbling along. I was suddenly orphaned aged 13, so started working in a hairdresser's on a Saturday and weekends, holidays to buy clothes, etc. So I naturally thought, oh, I'll become a hairdresser. Unfortunately, I had to leave school, couldn't go on to do A-levels because I lived with my 21-year-old sister and it just wasn't financially achievable. But I had taken 9 O-levels and was quite a clever kid, and the careers office had different ambitions for me. So they sent me for an interview at the housing department. And the reason I took the job, I don't mind admitting at the time, was because it was £47 per week. And I think that's something that's probably underestimated by young people, that housing isn't just a fantastic career to get into, but it's well paid as well. So the alternative was a £25 a week hairdressing job. To a £47 a week scale 1 clerk, where my roles were filing, making the tea, and pretty much just doing the post, etc. But it meant I could give my sister £20 and then I had £27 for myself to buy clothes and makeup and etc. So that's how my housing career started. And inside housing was one of the items of post that every week I had to deliver to the leadership team. On the front of the Inside Housing magazine was a distribution list that I used to staple on, and then the leadership team would cross their name off as I took it around the offices and they read it. And I always thought to myself, as a young person, one day I'm going to have my name on here. And obviously key to that was becoming a member of the Chartered Institute of Housing. So again, unconventionally, I went to work in the private sector, and it was there that I became a member of Chartered Institute of Housing. And I think sometimes in social housing, we think we're quite elite, quite exclusive in terms of the CIH, but in the private sector, they also have ambitions to be good professionals and have professional standards. So I did a HNC while working for the Halifax. I was the only private student in the classroom at university when I did the HNC. But it was a great experience, and it drove me back to where my heart belonged, which was social housing. So I went back to work for the council, finished my Bachelor of Arts degree in housing, become a fully qualified member of the CIH, and worked my way up the career ladder to eventually becoming Chief Executive of Byker Community Trust, my last position, which you quite rightly pointed out, I've recently retired from. And I've got to say that was probably the best job that I had in my life. But throughout that, Chartered Institute of Housing has been the cornerstone of my career. I've also been a member of the CIH North East Board. I started off as membership officer and doubled the membership in 3 years by working in partnership with CIH centrally, my employer, and an external private business who would provide sponsorship to allow people who had a housing qualification to access a fast access route to professional corporate membership, and in a cost-effective way for employers. So that helped to double the membership in the North East. Then went on to be the vice chair and eventually the chair, where again I introduced new events and activities which were very popular and more profitable for CIH. So working in tandem with the CIH throughout my career as I progressed to the last position, which was chief executive level.
Great, thank you, Jill. And my next question is why you'd like to be Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Housing?
Yeah, great question. The honest answer to that is I think it's time for me to give something back. And it's something that's been suggested to me for a number of years now, but I really couldn't justify the time and attention that the Vice President role needed. In my opinion, tenants were paying my wages and I couldn't justify being out of the office a lot. Collecting badges and gongs isn't my thing. People who know that, who know me, know that that's just not my thing. what I do is I'm very organised, I work hard and I get things done and I bring people along with me. So I think I want to make a positive difference to the Chartered Institute of Housing by being an inspirational president, someone who listens to the membership and represents the membership, because let's face it, I'm a perfect ambassador from the story that I've just told you. CIH runs through me like a stick of rock. And I now, most importantly, want to give it priority, because I know I can give it the time and energy and commitment that it requires. Of course, giving something back could come in different guises. I care about many issues, especially given the area that I've just worked in, which was suffering some really major raw issues on a daily basis. Poverty and deprivation being a conduit for many of those things, mental health, homelessness, antisocial behaviour, domestic violence, worklessness. So levelling up is very important to me. But for the term of my vice presidency and for presidency, I will concentrate on the CIH, its members, the sector, and hoping that I can be the living embodiment of that and what the CIH can do, particularly for young people. Because I know a chair of mine, Jim Colton, a fantastic mentor, always said to me, Jill, confidence comes from competence, sorry. And that competence is there, you know, it's there in the training, in the networking and in the activities that CIH just does. So that needs to become the benchmark for the whole sector. And I think for me, or for members rather, I could give good value for money. Because I can guarantee that I can give that role everything I've got and the commitment which it needs. Yeah,
great, thank you. And my last question, just following on from that, really is, if you are successful, what would drive you through the vice presidency and then subsequently the presidency?
Yeah, well, supporting the current president, obviously, and her campaign would be very important. For mine, it will be about sticking to the knitting. It's all going to be about raising awareness of the Chartered Institute of Housing, the sector to young people especially, because if we consider the Housing White Paper and the evolving agenda, it's about professional standards. The sector's getting a bit of a kicking at the moment in terms of reputational damage by the media because of the state of some housing and because of the salaries of some chief executives. But I would suggest that's a minority issue, not a majority, because actually we're a very values driven and purposeful sector, and we need to get those messages across more clearly. So about developing and supporting, promoting the professional standards to CIH members and to organisations alike. So they need to be the benchmark for the sector, not just for our membership. Providing a platform for CPD particularly, so that's something that is constantly benchmarked and tested. And I think that would give the sector something to be proud about, something that we can do together and shout out loud about together. So challenging poor conduct, which, as I said earlier, is a minority issue, but making sure that that's there, and also being an independent voice for the sector. The CIH has got everything it needs. You know, we're proper tooled up in terms of the professional standards, etc. We just need to roll them out. So my campaign would be all about the CIH as a professional, and for how we get that message out loud and clear to the sector.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you, Jill. That's the end of my questions today. So it just leaves me to thank you again for your time and to wish you best of luck with the forthcoming election.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.